Hi guys, I am back and I'm super glad you found your way back to this channel for a new and amazing episode. And like you can see behind me, well, now you can, I got a new tent. This, guys, is the Mirage 1.5 from Big Sky International. It's a two-person freestanding single-wall 2 vestibule tent with 2 vents at only 1100 grams. Now, that might sound a little bit too good to be true, right? Stay tuned and find out. Ultralight freestanding tents are a rare thing, but Big Sky wanted to have a go and develop the Mirage 1.5. And at 1100 grams, I would say they are into business. But I guess both the new X-Dome from Dan Thurston and the Arc Dome from Tartan to be new contenders, and both probably made in DCF. Something Big Sky also is looking at in the future and probably also for 2024. It is not confirmed yet, but you can see it on the web shop as an alternative to come. Anyways, today it is all about the Mirage 1.5, and let's address the biggest issue, that they're almost always out of stock. Whoa, it's a lot of wind here. Let's continue. Now, Big Sky, I'm talking to you now. Why is it that so many of your products is always out of stock? Because I know a lot of people wanting to buy your products, but can't because of long lead times and this out of stock sign on most of your products. Please, Big Sky, because I know you're watching this, leave a comment down below and tell us why. Now, back to the tent, the Mirage 1.5. I had the pleasure to try out on my latest hiking trip down at Skåneliden in Sweden. A very beautiful place, but also quite a cold hike. Things I wanted to check and talk about during this episode is first, how easy it is to pitch, the space inside, like the internal height and the width, and how it copes with condensation, being a single wall tent and all. In the end, I will also give you my good and the bad for you to make up your mind if it is a buy or a no buy in your book. Now, no time to waste, let's do this. For the size and the weight of the Mirage 1.5, it weighs in at 1100 grams, including the tent, the Duck NFL ultralight poles and the storage bag, but excluding the pegs. The size when packed is small and about 15 centimeters in diameter and 30 centimeters wide. And wow, you can really hear the wind. Well, feels like I'm pretty safe inside this tent anyways, right? To pitch the Mirage is easy. And because it's a single wall tent, the inner mesh is attached to the outer, making it perfect for rainy days, and you will not get any water inside the tent during pitching. It also has a quite small footprint for this kind of large tent. The tent is pitched with the foot end against the wind, clearly marked out with red tabs for you to easily find the right side. And if you go inside, you will understand why. That spot is pitched close to the ground with no ventilation, making it shed the wind pretty good from that angle. The design of this tent is good and traditional in many ways. You have the cross-pull design with external clips. You have the 2 vestibules where you can open both doors for good ventilation on the hot days, big mesh doors for easy getting in and out of the tent, and a high bathtub floor, and 2 vents for a good cross ventilation. What stands out to me is the idea to always pitch the tent with the foot end facing the wind, clearly marked out with the red tabs I told you before, and what that gives you, beside the best angle facing the wind, is that the 2 doors open in the opposite direction, meaning if you open one door on either side to get in and out of your tent or just to get some view from the tent, the opening will not face the wind. And that's also the reason there's no vents facing in that direction. I also like that the minimum amount of stakes that you need is 2. For the 2 vestibules. But you can add as much as 14 stakes if also adding the guy lines for the 2 vestibules. And that is a really good idea for the windy days. The internal space is pretty good, and like you can see, I can move around. So to change clothes and to move in and outside of the tent, it's not an issue. And the internal height is about 1 meters. The max length for users is about 180 centimeters, not more. Longer people will have either their head or the sleeping bag touching the outer, and that is not such a good idea due to moisture. The width is only 102 centimeters in the foot end and 115 centimeters at the top. So it only fits 2 regular 51 centimeter pad, but if you're only one guy inside this tent, you'll have plenty of space for you and your gear, or maybe you and a dog. On my latest hike, I had my backpack beside me with room to spare, like you can see. It is slightly narrow at the top like the double rainbow from top tent, so the doors are sloping towards the ground quite a bit, resulting in a low vestibule area. When it comes to the doors, the pockets and loops for organization, you have two big size doors on each vestibule that can be easily hung up to be out of the way for easy entry or ventilation for the hot days, both the outer and the inner mesh door. Inside you find 4 pockets for storage, 2 big ones at the top and 2 even bigger ones at the end to fit a lot of your gear. And loops for adding guy lines or hang stuff onto, like a lantern. Vestibule size for cooking and your gear. Well, it has 2 good sized vestibules. For gear like shoes, chair, a food pot like you can see, but not so good for cooking due to the low height. You can do it, well yeah, but it's not the best I've seen and you need to be a little bit careful or you will risk burning a hole in your nice new tent. For ventilation, you have 2 big vents on each side for cross ventilation. You can have them open or closed in case of bad weather. On one side where you have your head, there's also ventilation and kind of a gap between the ground and the inner, separated with a mesh for good ventilation. Overall, I believe the ventilation is well thought out and adequate and will probably work really good. Condensation, well, condensation is about to happen because of its design being a single wall tent and all, and I had the perfect conditions to try this out on my latest hike. And you can clearly see on these pictures when we had temperatures around 2 to 5 degrees Celsius and about 90% humidity during the night. This is about to happen no matter if it's a single wall tent or not, but with a single wall tent you'll be exposed to the outer when inside the tent, with a high risk of rubbing your head or your sleeping bag against the outer, collecting a little bit of moisture and into your gear, and that is of course not a good thing. If you get a lot of condensation like I did, some drops will fall from the outer and onto your gear that otherwise have been prevented by the inner. This is especially true when it starts to rain and the drops inside on the inside of your outer will then fall down onto your gear and make them a little bit damp. Now to the pros and cons, and let's first talk about the cons. Thin nylon tent will accumulate a lot of water and the Mirage is no different. This tent, when it is dry, weighs in at 1100 grams, but after my latest hike, the weight increased to 1288 grams, and that is a 17% weight increase that you need to carry the full next day. The Mirage is not for tall people, period. It's a very, very small 2-person tent, and I will go as far as saying this is only a 1-person tent, a very spacious 1-person tent. If it is raining and you open your doors, it will rain directly into your tent. Just look at these angles. The design in this case is no good, but you also see it on a lot of other tents like the top tent double rainbow. The single wall construction will leave the outer exposed inside your tent with the possibility and a high risk of transferring the water and the condensation onto your gear. And the pros? I have plenty of storage inside your tent with 4 big pockets and a lot of loops and quite big vestibules. It is a very lightweight tent despite not being in DCF. It is cheap for what you get, in my opinion, at only 5,000 Swedish or about $400 if living in the US. It is quick and easy to pitch and has a small footprint. It is a perfect sized 1-person tent with room for you and your gear and maybe a small dog. Before wrapping things up and before I give you my verdict, you might have seen the FlexSail RO5 sleeping pad in this episode, and yeah, next episode will be a review on that one, so remember to subscribe and turn on the notifications so you don't miss it. Now to my verdict about the Mirage 1.5. If the pros overweigh the cons, it is up for you to decide. But according to me, the Big Sky Revolution 1.5 is the better tent and the one you should choose. Despite it being 250 grams heavier, you have the bigger vestibules for better cooking, you have a 2-wall tent so the condensation will not fall directly onto your gear, and if you open the door and it rains, it will not rain directly into your tent. But if you prioritize the weight and the pack size and still want a freestanding tent, a spacious freestanding tent for 1 person, I believe that the Mirage could be a good option. What do you think? Please leave a comment and tell us all about it. Now I hope you enjoyed today's episode and the review on the Mirage 1.5. If not, leave a comment. hit like, subscribe, and I will see you again soon. Bye bye.